So for those that don't know me, my name's Louise Gardner. I'm the founder and managing director of Pledge Consulting. Welcome to those of you who, welcome back, I should say, to those of you who've been to our webinars and events before, and welcome to those that haven't. We have a treat for you today. I'm delighted to welcome Pete Omotosho. He's going to tell us a little bit about Disciplined Agile, so a good introduction. I'm going to introduce Pete properly in a second, but before I do, I just want to tell you how we're going to go this afternoon. So Pete's going to do his presentation for roughly about 45 minutes. Pete, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And we'll have time for questions at the end. However, if you do have questions as we go through, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and I'll kind of act as the curator. And if we get a suitable time, I'll ask them. Otherwise, I'll make sure we don't miss them at the end. So to introduce Pete, again, welcome, Pete. Pete Omotosho is an experienced Agile coach, trainer, and consultant who really understands the complex challenges facing today's organizations. He works with businesses to bring the best of Agile and lean methods to clients, including Disciplined Agile, and he has over 20 years of proven professional experience across energy, telcos, information technology, financial services, education, government, consulting, and not-for-profit sectors. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Pete. Pete, the floor is yours.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for the introduction. I just need to quickly share my screen.
Oh, I'll have to give you the power, I think, won't I?
Yes.
There you go. It should be good now.
All right, good. All right, great. Okay, so let me just quickly check if you can see my screen.
Looks good.
All right, good. So first of all, let me say thank you for having me in this session, and thank you, Pledge Consulting, for organizing these. I am happy to share with the community that I've really learned so much from. And Louise and myself had some informal chat in the past, and I am glad to say that she's one of the people I really want to continue to learn from. So thank you for also giving me this platform. All right, so probably just to get some engagement from everyone, because again, it's the word we have here now. I just want to make sure that everyone is well engaged. If you can just type where you are joining us from today, that would be good. I'm not monitoring the chat, but at least I can probably look at it at some point. So where are you joining us from, Melbourne or outside Australia? That will be great. Now, I'll just go straight from here because, of course, time is of essence. All right, I'll just take it. Cool. I've got people from Melbourne, Dubai. Yeah, good. Thank you. All right, cool. Sydney as well. Wow. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I think we have a lot of people from Sydney. All right, so I'm not going to bore you with about me. The only thing I will add to what Louise has mentioned is that I work with Pete Lauren Consulting, and we are also an authorized training partner with PMI. So what we're going to talk about today is Disciplined Agile. I am an authorized training partner instructor for Disciplined Agile. That means I've got experience and some expertise to talk about what we are to discuss today. So it's just going to be more like an introduction to Disciplined Agile. So to start with, what is Disciplined Agile? Disciplined Agile is a toolkit. It is a toolkit of Agile practices that enables you, organizations, everyone pretty much, to make better decisions about how to adopt Agile and also how to scale Agile. So we talk about Disciplined Agile as an agnostic hybrid tool. And what it does is it binds all these tools, all these Agile practices, the lean practices, all the approaches that we know under the big umbrella of Agile, binds them together, and it allows teams and organizations to choose their ways of working. So look at it as not being the framework that we implement. It is a toolkit that helps organizations solve the problem that they have, especially the problem of how they can adopt Agile. And this is done across organization. What it does is it utilizes the Agile mindset, the Lean mindset, and put everything in clear perspective. So, like I said, it's a toolbox. Let me make it a little bit practical for you. One of the activities that I liked to do when I was young was to follow my dad to the mechanic. And when he takes his car to the mechanic in those days, the mechanic is just going to open the toolbox and pick the tool that he needs to fix my dad's car. And it doesn't matter what the problem is. If it's with the battery, if it, with the engine, with anything, it brings the appropriate tool and try to work on it. In that toolbox, there are so many tools. It could be a wrench today, tomorrow it might be a screwdriver, it might be a spanner the next day. Whatever it is, it's in that toolbox. So think about that toolbox that I just told you about. That is what Disciplined Agile is. In that toolbox of Disciplined Agile, we have theories of flow, we have theories of lean, we have theory of constraints, we have other practices like organizational development practices in that toolbox. And so it kind of provides a straightforward guidance that enables organizations and Agile practitioners like us to make better decisions inside the organizations that we work with. So that's pretty much what Disciplined Agile is. Now, the question is, how does Disciplined Agile achieve this? Well, it looks at activities that happen within organizations. In finance, in solution delivery, in IT operations, vendor management, and so on and so forth, and describe what these activities should address. It doesn't stop there. Disciplined Agile provides a range of options for addressing those issues and also some trade-offs. And I'll share a little bit more about that very soon. So I've used this example earlier on. It's a big umbrella of Agile frameworks, Agile practices. You know, under that framework, we can bring all these practices together, and Disciplined Agile tends to fill the gaps that are left by all these single frameworks collectively, and really address any problem that we want to address within the organization. Technically, it's just helping organizations to advance to a fit for purpose ways of working so that they can optimize their flow. Now, the million-dollar question that a lot of people ask is, how is it different? What's in it for me? How can Disciplined Agile help me? That is the big question. So we're going to look at answering this question from 3 dimensions, right? The very first dimension is around optimizing your teams. With Disciplined Agile, you are able to better optimize your teams. So let's start with the complex adaptive systems on the next slide. Now, in order for you to better optimize your team, you need to understand that your organization, my organization, everyone's organization is a complex adaptive system. So the question is, what is a complex adaptive system? It is a system in which the perfect understanding of just an individual part of a system does not automatically give you a perfect understanding of the whole system or the behavior of the whole system. Which means if you're a member of this team, right, you may not really understand what happens throughout the whole organization because it is complex. What happens in this team will affect what happens in this team and affect other domains in the organization. And that is why we think it is really a complex adaptive system. So it is complex because we're looking at a dynamic network of interactive teams. All the teams are interacting together. So it is very hard to predict what each individual team is going to do. And so we come up with the hope, with the hope that whatever they are doing will come together for the main purpose of delighting the customer. So it's just based on hope that, what we are doing today as a team is going to help the team or the organization delight their customers. It is also adaptive because, you see, individuals and the teams within an organization, they try to self-organize. That is what Agile teaches us anyway, and learn from their experiences, and hopefully from the experiences of other people. So that is where the being adaptive comes in. So in a nutshell, DA will help you to better optimize your team, to make sure that they are working together in a very, very optimal way, in a very, very effective way. And I pretty much have run through this. So it's just like when you have a change upon any part of it, of the system, you cannot really know what the impact is going to be on that system because we are not sure. We are dealing with complex adaptive system. You know, you can also not rule out any other impact in other components of the system. So there are a lot of unknowns. There are a lot of things that are unclear within the organization. Now, please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. We'll definitely have a quick Q&A session towards the end. Hopefully, we'll be able to answer all your questions then, if time permits. Now, the second thing we are going to address, or what DA can do for us, is that the DA Toolkit enables you to extend agility beyond the team to the entire organization. And this leads us to business agility, right? So in order to really explain this, we are going to look at what we call the Disciplined Agile process blades chart. This is a chart that really addresses the specific capabilities within the organization, like data management, finance, people management, procurement, and so on and so forth. And in order for us to look at that, there are layers that I'm going to quickly take us through. The foundation layer talks about the fundamental skills that we need, the knowledge that is required for business agility, things that has to do with the agile principles, the promises and guidelines of Disciplined Agile, the ways of working of Agile, of Lean, and so on and so forth, how the teams are put together, different roles that we have. Those are the fundamental, things that are needed for business agility to even take place. Right on top of that, we do have the DevOps layer. So this layer captures how to make solution delivery, to make it more effective, so to say, within an enterprise. We are just trying to make sure that we bridge the gap between development and operations so that there will be seamless delivery of solutions across the board. And right on top of that, or maybe around that, we do have value streams. Now, this layer, what it does is it captures how to provide value to the customers from the beginning of the idea to the delivery of the solution, which means it has to be hand-to-hand. We want to remove non-value adding items or tasks and make sure that we have a very, very good stream of activities from the beginning to the end. Organizations can have multiple value streams. I'll just stop there. This is not a value stream kind of class, but again, That's a very complex one, which we can spend hours to unpack. And right on top of that, we have the Disciplined Agile enterprise. This is the layer that captures the organizational process that are required to kind of support the value streams. We have things like the people management, the transformation office, vendor management, the legal team. All of them sit right on top of that. That is the platform that is needed for value stream to effectively deliver value across the board. So this is just what the Disciplined Agile process blade chart really addresses. That is what it addresses. To take us further, the third thing that I will be touching on is that the Disciplined Agile Toolkit lets you accelerate value, especially around scaled agile environment, right? So the question is, well, how do you create value when you're scaling? This is where tactical scaling factors chart can help. This is another thing that is built into Disciplined Agile, which means whatever you do, whatever opportunity you have to scale Agile, if you are able to tactically look at some of the factors that enables business agility or enables scaling, you will be able to scale to the right dimension, right? And this is one of the areas that Disciplined Agile is addressing. So every team is unique, and every team is always in a unique situation, which also suggests that when you want to scale, it is much more than the team size. Most of the time, organizations, team, agile enthusiasts try to look at the size. Oh, now the team is more than 25. We need to think about scaling. Team is more than 100. Now it's time to scale. In fact, there is more to scaling than just sizing. And frankly speaking, the easiest factor to address is that of size. So the diagram we see on the screen can help us to understand how we can scale, to understand our unique context. And it does so by addressing these 6 dimensions. So for example, if you have a team of 10, whatever you will need to scale will definitely be different to what you will need when you want to scale a team that is more than 250, right? Let's look at geographic location. If you have a team that is co-located, everybody is on level 2 on a particular office in the same project room. What you'll need to do will be quite simpler than a team that is on the same, or what would be simple, and a team on the same building. For example, some people sit on level 2 and another group of people sit on level 4, and there's another team sitting on level 12. It will be different. The scenario will be different on the same building. And then, of course, we have the same time zone. Some teams are sitting in Canberra, another team sitting in Melbourne, where I am. Probably we have another team in Sydney, right? The same time zone. Of course, we also have a global team. Example, we have a team in Africa, another team in India and Australia. These are global teams. How do we scale when we have this scenario? And of course, we can go on and on about all the different dimensions that we have. We have organizational distribution. We have compliance. Some organizations deal with life critical, events. Some have none at all. Some are just financial in nature. And of course, we have technical complexity, of course, and lastly, domain complexity. So these are the things that are built into, the Disciplined Agile Toolkit in such a way that you, as an individual, as an Agile leader, as an organization, can tailor your process, can tailor your team structure, or even your tooling strategies to reflect the situation that you find yourself. And of course, you'll be able to provide, context for organizing your people, your process, and your teams. Eventually, the teams that you work with will be able to choose their ways of working. Not only that, they will be able to evolve their ways of working to meet, the challenging or changing situation that they face every time. So those are the three angles I was going to look at. And I believe that you must have taken one or two things. We're going to practicalize some of these probably later on today before I finish. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop it. I'm also going to look at 4 essential views of Disciplined Agile. Starting with the Disciplined Agile mindset. What is it all about? We need to understand the people side of Disciplined Agile, talking about the roles and responsibilities, the team structures. We also do need to look at the practices, the goal diagrams, what is it? And of course, life cycles and workflows. We're going to touch briefly on that. On the 4 essential views of Disciplined Agile, I'll start with the mindset. So what is the DA mindset? It is based on lean principles and agile principles. It's just the agile ways of thinking, the agile ways of working. And we have 3 aspects: the principles, the promises, and of course, the guidelines. So from the DA point of view, we do have the principles. What this is saying is, we promise ourselves, or we believe in doing what we do, or can we just say it answers the question, why do we do what we do, right? So we have things like delighting the customers, context count, and I've mentioned these a couple of times today. Depending on your context, DA believes that depending on your context, you will be able to do or use a framework or combinations of frameworks and practices to really do things that matter. One of the principles is choice is good, optimize around products and services, enterprise awareness, be pragmatic. These are 9, principles that DA actually looked or is built upon. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at these 9 principles. Which of the principles applies to your current context? And which one is absent that you would like to bring on board based on the DA principles? So that is that about the principles. We do also have the promise, which is the promise we make to each other in Disciplined Agile. There are 7 of them. And it answers the question of how we are going to work together, how we will work together. So in Disciplined Agile, we promise to create a psychological safe environment for ourselves. We also promise to accelerate value realization, improve predictability, improve continuously, keep workloads within capacity. So these are 7 promises. You can see that these are not new concepts. but DA has put them together so that we can choose our ways of working, So for example, continuous improvement is a lean concept, and it is very much part of DA as well. So again, I want you to look at these 7 promises. Which of the promises currently works in your organization? Or better still, which promise would you like to make to your organization? So that's that about the promises. And lastly, we have the guidelines, right? We follow a selection or a collection of guidelines that enables us to be effective. So again, we have things like validate or lines, we have attend to relationships through the value streams, and so on and so forth. I just want you to look at these guidelines. Which of them would you like to follow in your organization to be more effective? So this is what Disciplined Agile is built on. This is actually the mindset that the Disciplined Agile Toolkit is built on. All right, so going further to the people, there are 4 essential views, like I said: the DA mindset, the people, the practices, and of course, the flow. So let's go to the people. Now, with the DA mindset or the DA ways of working, what happens is we have 4 major team roles. We call them the primary roles. So let's start from the team lead. Think about the team lead as your typical Scrum Master. This is more like what you can call the servant leader based on the Scrum way of defining the Scrum Master, right? So the team lead is equivalent to your Scrum Master in the Scrum world. This is a role that helps you to create and maintain the conditions that allows your team to create value at the end of the day, or that allows the team to be successful in what they choose to do. It helps the team, or she helps the team, to focus on work that matters. The Scrum Master helps them, the team, to continue to deliver value or deliver the work items, especially around fulfilling the iteration goals. There are quite a number of activities that the Scrum Master or the team lead do in terms of probably is or she is the person that goes ahead to support a product owner, acts as a true leader when the need arises, empowers the team so that they can self-optimize themselves or self-optimize the process, and so on and so forth. More importantly, the team lead kind of removes impediments that are facing the team. If Scrum Master can do that, otherwise it can facilitate that removal of impediment. So when you say the team lead, what comes to mind is the Scrum Master. What comes to mind is the Scrum Master. So the second role is the product owner. The product owner, of course, from a Scrum angle, is the voice of the customer. It is that person that knows so much about the product and try to sell it to the development team so that they can begin to deliver value to the customer or to the business or to the stakeholders. Let's use the common term. So this is a role that represents the needs and desires of the stakeholder community and make sure that the eyes of the team is on that product so that they can deliver it in good time. Now, Disciplined Agile also created a role called the architecture owner. Now, the question is, what is this role? This role is the voice of the organization. Anything that has to do with solutioning, anything that has to do with architecture, anything that has to do with technical stuff is handled by this person. It's typically a senior person. However, it's not hierarchical. This role is not hierarchical. It's not that someone or a group of people are reporting to this person. It's just a role that is given to someone who has some technical background and solid understanding of the business as well. So in other words, it is expected that this person, just like any other team member, will be able to sign up for work, pick work items, and deliver tasks like every other team member. So I just need to make that clear. This is a role that is a member of the team, but this person just have a very strong technical background and a good understanding of the business domain. Every other person within the team is a member of the team. We call them the team member. Anyone else who is rolling their sleeves up to get their hands dirty, to do amazing work within the team is a team member according to Disciplined Agile. And of course, outside those four roles, we have the stakeholders. And of course, as project managers and project enthusiasts, we know that anyone who is materially impacted by the outcome of our project or product or a solution is a stakeholder. So if anyone is not sitting within the inner circle, then such a person is a stakeholder. Disciplined Agile also kind of have some other roles, which I'm not going to go into now. These are supporting roles, and they are subject matter experts who sit outside the project team. Take, for example, if the team is going to need an independent tester at iteration 3 or 4, yeah, they might just say, oh, we need a tester at iteration 3. We need you for 1 week or 2 weeks. Please come on board, help us out, and then go back to your team. And so these supporting roles depends on your context, the environment you find yourself, the project you are doing, and the needs of the team. So I'm not going to dwell too much on this. Cool. So let's look at flow. What does that mean from the Disciplined Agile point of view? Now, the Disciplined Agile delivery actually supports several full life cycles. And this is just because there are different situations that organization face and team face. And it's so really important to choose a fit for purpose life cycle, because of course, no one life cycle fits all. It depends on the context, it depends on the needs of the team. So within the Disciplined Agile Toolkit, we have 6 life cycles. We have the Agile life cycle, we have the continuous delivery Agile life cycle, we have the Lean life cycle, we have the continuous delivery Lean life cycle, we do have exploratory life cycle, and of course, program life cycle. Because of time, we are just going to look at one of them, which is the Agile life cycle. This is just an extension of Scrum, so to say. It is based on Scrum. It brings, enterprise issues into account when the Agile lifecycle is being used. Just to quickly explain this, before we can say, okay, let's use Scrum, for instance, I believe there must be portfolio management piece of work where the vision will be defined, of course, funding available, some product management and enterprise architecture piece of work that will lead to roadmaps and guidance. And at the end of the day, we will have our work items in a container called the product backlog. And as soon as we are ready to start our iterations, or what we call sprint in the Scrum world, we will be able to create an iteration backlog, which is the prioritized list of work items that can be delivered over a period of time, typically between 1 to 4 weeks, an iteration. Let's say our iteration is 2 weeks, for instance. What will we have is every day within those 2 weeks, there will be daily coordination meeting. That's typically our stand-up meetings. And at the end of the 2 weeks, we will be able to do a demonstration to the stakeholders so that we can show what we have done or delivered as a team. And of course, a go-forward decision will need to be taken at some point in time. And this go on every iteration, a couple of iterations, until we do have a consumable solution that we can sell or hand over to IT operations and support. And pretty much this is what it does. And it just go on like that. I also want to really let us know that lean governance is baked into Disciplined Agile. At any point in time, no matter what the delivery lifecycle that we choose, there are typically some questions we can ask ourselves. Questions like, at some point after the inception, we want to ask ourselves, does the vision, does it still hold? Do stakeholders agree with the start strategy? If the answer is yes, yep, let's go ahead. Do we have proven architecture, especially at the early stages of construction when the team is really iterating and trying to develop the product? Can we truly build this? If the answer is yes, we can continue. We want to look at viability, and this happens so many times within the construction, right? The question is, does the effort still make sense? Now, what it's saying is, if the effort stops making sense, yeah, let's kill the project or pivot to something else. It's better to lose 20% of the budget than losing 100% of the budget. And we can only do this if we ask these questions. Do we have sufficient, functionality to release the current solution? Will the solution work in production? This is one thing that we need to really ask ourselves during the transition phase. And are we still delighting our customers? Are the stakeholders happy with the deployed solution? So these are questions that we ask continually within DA delivery that helps us with lean governance. Okay, so that takes us to the final area of practices. With the practices, we're going to look at what goal diagrams are. So to take us further, we're going to quickly look at a process goal to explain practices. Now, I will walk you through a process goal called Explore Scope. By the way, the Disciplined Agile browser is now freely available, which means you can jump online, and I'll drop the link very soon so that you can actually see how it works in real life. If I have some time, I can demonstrate that maybe for 5 minutes, but I'm looking at my time now as well. So I was going to look at Explore Scope as a process goal. So let's just assume that you are part of a team and your team is having problems identifying how your stakeholders, your end users, will use the solution that you are providing. And this is just because they don't have access to actual end users. So what are you going to do? Let's just look at the team lead, the Scrum Master, say, oh, guys, why don't we look at potential solutions and options in a DA toolkit, in the Disciplined Agile toolkit, and see what we could try. So what happens is the team says, yep, let's look at explore scope, right? In the explore scope diagram, what do we have? So what happens is the team suddenly saw that, yes, we've got an option that looks at how our end users can explore usage. And they suddenly also see that, wow, there are options here beyond user story. User story is just one of the options. They have epic, they have persona, they have use case, they have user story map, and so on and so forth. Now, in this instance, the team says, okay, let's actually look at what we've got in the Choose Your Wow book. So I've got this book here, Choose Your Wow. Yep, Choose Your Wow. Good. Or better still, we can use the DA browser. Let me see if I can just drop that link for you right now so that you can have it as well. That is in the chat. Now, in the DA browser, this has tables, the tables of options, right? The tables of trade-offs. And so what the team decided to do in this instance is, well, let's look at one of the options, which is persona. So what they did is they suddenly identify that personas are probably the best option for them to address the current problem that they have. And they decide to experiment with that strategy. And so they can go in there, read more about the persona, look at what options that they have, they look at the trade-offs that they can actually use for that particular option. And then they can go ahead and do what they need to do. So for your information, this is the way Disciplined Agile has actually described the process goal diagram. First of all, we have the process goal. In this case, we have the explore scope. And second of all, we have one or more decision points. In this case, we have explore purpose, explore user usage, and so on and so forth. And then there are options as well, which are the options. The options may be ordered, and you can see the one with the arrow. This is an ordered options, and then the other ones are not ordered as well. When you see ordered, which means you can start from the top, the arrow is saying this is the one you can start up first, and then followed by this one, then followed by the third one. But of course, it's up to you to choose your options from the options that is available to you. All right, this is the DA browser, which I've dropped in the chat for you at the moment. Okay, so if you're interested in really starting your certification journey or knowledge journey, let me put it that way, knowledge journey with Disciplined Agile, there are several options. We have the ACP, which is the PMI Agile Certified Practitioner for people who just want general knowledge of Agile. And then the DASM is the Disciplined Agile Scrum Master Certification. Anybody that is new to Agile can take that. We also have the DASSM, that's the Senior Scrum Master, the Disciplined Agile Senior Scrum Master, which is for people who are experienced in Agile or have done DASM or ACP. And if you want to take it further, you can do either DAVSC or DAC, which is the Disciplined Agile Coach or the Disciplined Agile Value Stream Consultant certification. Okay, so what next? I always like to give an action plan for people attending my webinars and seminars. If you think this is really cool for you, you might want to explore more, read more about the Disciplined Agile. There are a couple of materials that are free on PMI website. Also, there is a basics of Disciplined Agile workshop, which is available on PMI website as well, and you can earn PDs for that as well. Of course, you can choose to come on board with us on Paid Learning Consulting for Disciplined Agile certification and choose the one that is right for you based on what I shared in the previous screen. And that's it. If you'd like to catch up and talk more about Disciplined Agile, I'm happy to have a catch up with you. Let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. And of course, we can take it further. Of course, you can also send me an email, pete@paidlearningconsulting.com.au. I will definitely be able to answer your questions. And I think I am right on time for questions.
Brilliant, Pete. Thank you. I'll open it to the floor first of all. I have a couple of questions, but let's see if anybody else has questions. If you put your hand up, I can press the button and so we can hear you. If you have questions, please press the raise hand button on the screen. Questions? I might kick us off then, Pete, if that's all right.
Yeah,
so a couple of things occurred to me. When you talked right at the beginning about having this umbrella for agile practices, can you talk a little bit about, is that an a holistic umbrella? So even the things that weren't listed on that slide, we had a conversation with a client today and we were talking about human-centered design, for example, and I was looking very carefully at the screen to see if that was up there. Does that umbrella include all agile practices?
Absolutely, Louise. This is what Disciplined Agile has done. Disciplined Agile is not saying one practice is better than the other, because what it's saying is there is no one best practice, because what works for organization A will not work for organization B. As a matter of fact, I've been through many transformations, agile transformation, and each transformation journey is unique and different. So that big umbrella that I showed you is just a big umbrella over a lot of practices, agile practices that conform with lean practices, agile practices, flow, and all those things put together and under the umbrella. So example, the example of my dad's mechanic that I shared. If he opens his toolbox and you can see that tool there, then is you. In our own case, if we open our DA toolbox and we see human-centered design there, oh yeah, if it's fit for purpose for our customers, for your customer, yeah, let's do it. Let's use it by all means.
Yeah, that's one of the things I highlighted actually as you were speaking, fit for purpose ways of working, which really resonates with us, because that's what we try to do with every client. We've got a question from David. What's the best example that you've seen of an organization adopting Disciplined Agile, or the closest thing to best practice? Great question.
Yeah, thank you, David. That's a very good example. The best example or best thing that I've seen, let me start from there, is that organizations are starting to liberate themselves from attaching themselves to a particular framework, right? For instance, I support an organization that is using SAFe at the moment. Now, if you take SAFe by the books and place it on this organization, there are parts of SAFe that will work very well, and there are parts of SAFe that will not work because remember, is a complex adaptive system. You know, complexity comes in here. So when I looked at, in our unique situation, in our unique environment, using the DA toolkit, what is best for us? Then a DA VSC, for example, value stream consultant can now say, okay, cool. Based on what you share with me or what I've seen, let's take, you know, Scrum plus HCD plus Lean, combine them together, and it defeats the purpose. And there are banks in Canada, there are organizations in Europe that are actually using this practice at the moment. The other day, someone from an organization called O2 in the US shared his journey so far using the value stream option of Disciplined Agile in the organization. And it's just that light bulb coming up from the leaders sitting in the room. So, oh, this is what we are seeing. These are the non-value adding issues that we've got and how we can improve it. So, David, to answer your question, it's really quite, you know, from what I've seen, it's quite important and it's quite elaborating. It's like enlightening. Yeah. Unfortunately, in Australia, we haven't seen much of DAA being rolled out, but PMI is working so hard to really get that going.
Great, thanks, Pete. I kind of have a related question, and I think we didn't have much time to chat when we met in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago. But one of the things I really wanted to talk about is that, you know, our client base spans not only IT, but construction, engineering type organizations, typically people like utilities. Do you think Disciplined Agile is a good mechanism for working with those organizations? And one of the reasons I ask is that some of your role names in DA sound very IT-based, IT-focused. How does that translate into non-IT environments? Have you got any experience with that yet?
Okay, first of all, my experience personally has been really working with all those doing agile in a non-IT environment. For example, of course, I was in Tesla. That's IT related. It's telecoms. I've been in Energy Australia, which is energy. I mean, supporting non-for-profit at the moment. You know, I've been in government and all those areas. Now, that is one. Secondly, Disciplined Agile directly aligns and maps with PMI. And you know that PMI is really big on the traditional ways of working, which aligns with the areas that you're talking about. So the same thing I spoke about around the big umbrella. Under that big umbrella, you will see practices that gives itself to ways of working in the waterfall way that aligns with Lean. What is Lean? Lean is just waste removal. Yeah. Right. And of course, a good project manager will make sure that it wants to do a good work on its on its critical path to remove waste. You know, and so definitely this will work. However, sometimes if it doesn't work, what do? You want to say that on time that, yeah, this is not fit, and then you can say, okay, make sure you follow a methodical way that works. Now, let me now say this in closing. Waterfall has its place. Practices like Prince 2, like PMI, PMBOK, they are working. That is why they can survive up to now. PMI is about 52, 53 years old, and they're still doing amazing work. So just to close on that, yep.
We'll wrap up then. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much, Pete. Very insightful. And we did have quite a lot of registrations. So to those who are here and to those who didn't make it, we will send that video round. and it'll be up on our website in the next few days. So thank you again, Pete, and thanks for joining us, everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me, Louise. And I want to say, if you want to take the conversation further, please let's connect on LinkedIn. I'll be most happy to, hold the conversation with you.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, folks.